Well, good morning, my Teaser King family. So, good news all around. Gold and silver is not collapsing. This has just been a Ponzi scheme, as we've been telling you. Listening to MMcgwire today, he kind of cleans it up. So, we will play Mark and he can kind of tell you, but it's very similar to what I've been talking about. Um, so, he he explains it the way I've been explaining it. It's been derivatives and options that have been moving it down, not physical, as we know. The paper price will go 8,000 for gold and 150 for silver. Nothing's changed. I don't know who will take over the pricing. I assume Shanghai, China. So in other words, when we go to the coin store, he can't really look at comex. If he is still using comex, then right now it's up to $76. He'll view it and go, oh, okay. So if he wants to still play that game, he may play that game. But the premium is much higher in China than it is in the U.S. Just a second. So we knew what was happening. People were trying to get out of their derivative positions. They're fishing out all the longs who had the price going up, so they were trying to get rid of them, and then all the shorts, well, it couldn't cover, so it ended up being a big nightmare. So here we see it. Now it's 76.29, and we're back to 49.44. So as I've been saying, all this noise. Yeah, I know silver was 120, and silver will go back to 120. Something's coming up February 27th. I need to get more information on. But gold, 8,000. And really, gold hasn't been affected by this. This is mostly a silver thing. Just a second, I need my pita. So I was out of everything. So I ran to the grocery store this morning and there was more snow out there. And I had to scrape my car, which I couldn't believe because some of the rain had frozen on my car. Now I'm in a carport, so it's really confusing. Anyway, so it's there is no physical silver in comex. Bottom line, that's basically as clear as it can be. But they have these options, and they had to kill all the longs because they wanted delivery. Then you had people coming in and immediately asking for delivery, which there aren't. Comex is gone. There is no silver to deliver, and nobody wants money because the money's not worth anything because it's been inflated. They had to print a lot of money to cover these shorts and all these contracts of people getting out. They had to cover it. They had to print money, which is worthless. So that's what happened. China went out because they couldn't deliver either. But Mark will explain all that. We'll get to Mark in a minute. So right now, so again, gold's right back to 5,000. And I know we get kind of slanted because we saw gold hit 5,500 and we're going, oh, let's get back to 5,500. Well, It will. Remember, a while ago, it went to like 4,100 when it was making its climb, and then it went back to 3,700, and then eventually it got back to 4,100, and now 45, and now 5,000. So it'll keep going. It's just being held down a little bit, but gold is not. The use for silver with all this industrial use is really making it because they want it and there isn't any. So you basically have a shortage of silver. But since you don't use gold in industrial, it's basically they're buying the brick, the 1,000-ounce bars, and I don't think they've run out of those yet, but they are very limited. So the whole comex thing, the whole option thing is just it's a Ponzi scheme, which is what we've always said, and that's what it is. And that's what all this problem is. They don't have the physical to deliver, so they're having margin call. They're doing whatever they can to lower the price because they're basically screwed. So Mark will verify what I've been saying. He gives a little more explanation that I don't have access to, but that's good. That's why we use him. Bitcoin is gone down to 65,000 or so. Let's take a look at what it's at, going down. People realizing it's not real, as I've been saying since day one. The Bitcoin price is 68,000. So it's actually, it was 65 or something. But why isn't it 150? Why isn't it $1 million? I thought it was going to $1 million an ounce. Because it's not real. So I got a video on that. So we'll get to Mark in a minute. Gold and silver. Again, it's very limited. Nothing has changed in the fundamentals. What does that mean, Howard? Well, the fundamentals say you have a very limited supply and a very high demand. In fact, the supply is so limited that there isn't any supply there, but the demand's huge. That hasn't changed. This is all COMEX derivative paper pricing, not physical pricing, creating this mess. But the advice is if you have it, you hold it. If you don't have it, you go buy it. So if you can go to the store and buy it, go. I'm going to go right after class. In London, Mark says that you got to have a lottery ticket. You go there, they give you a lottery ticket, and if you're lucky enough, they'll let you shop in the store. I know Pat always tells us in Hong Kong there's nothing there, that there's 5-6 hour lines. But in the U.S. people are just too stupid. A lot of them are idiots. They don't understand. They're not taught it. They've never went through a 1923 German crash. And they've never been the poor end of the stick where they needed gold and silver to bail them out. India understands it perfectly. So does China and Russia, but not here. So this is the real problem. We're still got our thumbs up our ass going, I'm in Apple, I'm in Amazon, I'm in the stock market. I'll buy real estate trust. The market can't collapse again, can it? And so people aren't in gold and silver because it's been suppressed, and the government wants to say, oh, we're going to tax you if you sell it. Well, you're not in it to sell it. You're not in it as a stock, which is, I think, the biggest problem that people have. So with all that going on, you realize what is truly happening here, which is the dollar collapsing, which, again, I went to the barbecue and I go, you're going to pay in dollars and card? Or I said, well, card, the dollar, what's a dollar? The dollar's worthless. She says, well, you've been saying that, you keep saying that. And I go, it is. I'm not lying to you. I told your owner gold and silver was going to go way up, and it's gone way up. I go, there's no skin in the game for me to tell you the dollar's going down, except for you to realize the dollar's going out. So with all that going on, you realize what is truly happening here, which is the dollar collapsing, which, again, I went to the barbecue and I go, you're going to pay in dollars and card? Or I said, well, card, what's a dollar? The dollar's worthless. She says, well, you've been saying that, you keep saying that. And I go, it is. I'm not lying to you. I told your owner gold and silver was going to go way up, and it's gone way up. I go, I have no, there's no skin in the game for me to tell you the dollar's going down, except for you to realize the dollar's going out. That's the skin in the game. That's it. That's all I can do. If you don't want to believe me, don't believe me, but show me where I've been wrong. Not in gold when it was 2000, not in silver when it was 25. I'm pretty damn sure I know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's what they have. John C. Matt Stafford won MVP. Drake May was second. Yeah, who cares? Larry Fitzgerald and Drew Brees and Roger Craig. And why are you telling us this, John C? Looks crunchy. Yeah, okay. I we'll see that when I go on Yahoo what's in, but I don't really care who gets in the Hall of Fame. I can't believe Drew Brees. I can't believe Roger Craig got in. He was a choke. Drew Brees, yeah. Larry Fitzgerald, yeah. Adam Vinatieri, I don't know why. Because he made the kick to beat Oakland, or he made the kick to beat the Rams. He was a good kicker. I'm not sure they should be in the Hall of Fame, but okay. Again, we're talking economics right now, so I'm not going to respond to football right now, but we will respond to it. So what you have is a game where the dollar's worthless in other countries, and they realize it, and people buy gold and silver. Germany, I'm sure. China, they're definitely doing it. London, the guys who understand it are buying it. MMcgwire, and it's really protection. And that's what you've got to realize, right? What's happening. All right, we see paper silver drop from 120 to 70 something. Now it's 76. It's still the paper price. This is the key that you must understand. This is not the physical price. When we see the Super Bowl odds and we see Seattle 4.5, that's a real physical, that's the physical line, but not in paper. There is no paper price of the Super Bowl. So you have two markets, right? You have the physical market of silver, which is much higher than $76. And then you have this paper derivative option market, which is all bullshit, which is $76. And so that's why I tell you, just don't pay attention to it. Now, on one hand, if I go to my guy's store today and he's $76, that's what I can buy it for. But knowing the physical price is nowhere near that. So I always been why I buy so much is I know the price is nowhere near reality. And you can see the paper, it's leveraged. It's it's like 5,000 contracts. So, 100 ounces of silver buys you 5,000 ounces of paper. Well, how is that physical? See, physical is boom. I got Canadian Club. You get the club, give me the money. What's a fair trade? That's what we do. That's physical, not, well, there's an option on the Canadian Club for $5, so I can get it for $5. I'm selling it for 100, not 5. But that's the point. That's what people don't realize. And that's where we're at. But that's becoming broken now. Now, MMcgwire normally doesn't do a show. He normally has a guest on today and they talk about God knows what. He actually talked about it in the first 20 minutes, which I'll show you. He actually explains it, what happened last week, which is good because I didn't want to wait 2 weeks. That's the problem with MMcgwire. He's on every other week. So if something happens like this, he does his show on Wednesday and he shows it on Friday. And then the following, if anything happens between that week, you don't find out about it for 2 weeks. So it was nice that he actually explained what was going on there. Now, his guest, I don't know. I don't like his guest. He's kind of an idiot, but we'll see how they talk about it. But it's basically the paper market collapsing. There is no physical, and this whole 50 country thing, I don't think will work. It takes at least like 5 years for a mine to come on. So let's say one of the countries in there is, I don't know, let's say it's, I don't know who, let's say it's Hungary. It's one of the 50 countries. Do they even have silver? So for them to get a silver mine, it's 3 years. I mean, this whole reserve by Trump is a joke, and that's not going to work. Um, China controls the market now in physical, and they'll try to get what the physical is. So we'll get into that. Bitcoin going down because people are realizing it's not money. It's like a collectible type of thing. As I said, it's like collecting baseball cards, but it's not real, and people are starting to realize that. And it's probably the Trumps and the Larry Finks who are dumping, and they made it look like everybody was in it, which they weren't. It's a big Ponzi scheme, and now it's starting to be whole. But the people holding it, who bought it at $5, who now it's worth 60, who was 100, they didn't sell it because they're idiots. They don't know why they bought it in the first place. They see the price go up. They don't know why the price went up. These are the same people that are in Madoff. They don't understand it, but they know it's going up. In Madoff, well, I know I don't understand what he does, but I know I get 15% every year. So as long as I get the 15%, he could stand on his head. As long as I get my money, I don't care. So that's what happens to these people. But the people buying have no idea. It's digital gold. In what world is it digital gold? In what world is it gold? Is it backed by gold? No. Not going to be gold. Is it money? No. Money needs to be accepted by everybody. So with money, I can go, this was at Meijer's getting groceries. I use this. So I use that to do that, right? I use money, as I explained yesterday. I thought that was, the way I explained it to Alyssa, I impressed myself. It's a trade. I have dollars, I'm trading it for food. And as the dollar becomes worth less, I need more money. I need a higher trade. So in other words, before I might take $25 for this, but now with inflation and the money being worthless, so it's still $25, but now the value of the dollar is gone. This, I will trade this for you, but I will trade it. I need more money because it's not worth anything. And it's as simple as that. It's a trade. Money is a trade. They trade me to work for them, and then I take the money they gave me, and then I go and do things. It's all a trade. And that's what it is. And that's what everything is. It's some sort of trade. Relationships are a trade. You'll take care of me, and I'll take care of you, and both sides benefit, and you happy with the other person, then it's fine. If you're not, you get a divorce and you try to find somebody else. But people get married or date for the wrong reasons, as we know. But everything's a trade. So I just went and traded money in for groceries, as long as the money works. But things did get more expensive. I paid $5 for 18 eggs. But I need eggs because I want to be healthy. Avocados were on sale for 88 cents. So I got 7 of them. I should go back and get 20 more. It's the item that you use a lot, and you can keep it in your fridge and it'll last you a couple weeks. So it's okay to buy it like that. George Soros is a big scammer. George Soros? George Soros is a Nazi. TK sounds good. Is that bottle worth anything? Yeah, I'm sure it is. I bought it because I worked there. I worked at Canadian Club. But because it's 12 years old, in 1997, it's got to be worth something because it's got to be limited. How many 12-year-old bottles from 1997 are around that people didn't open? Right? So I'm sure people got it for Christmas, opened them, and had it for Christmas, New Year's. But how many are closed 12 years? Probably not a lot. But it would depend if there's buyers. People that like Canadian Club, that prefer this type age 12-year bottle, there would probably be demand. If there's nobody that cares about Canadian Club or wants 12 years, then there would be no demand. That's how everything works. So again, money's trade. But when you print the money and print the money and print the money, it's worthless. The government apparently is back open because I talked to my friend at the DOD and I said, is the government like going to close again? He said, no, they signed it and it's all set. So somebody in the hot tub told me it's temporary, but no, I think he was confused with what was happening. So the government's back to work. Oh boy, they're trying to hire air traffic controllers. Tell me why the government is responsible for air traffic controllers. I have no idea. That should be the airlines or something in the air. There should be a company who hires and trains air traffic controllers. That's why it's so screwed up, because the government's doing it and the government can't do anything correct. And I guess a lot of people are failing the test, and so they can't bring in air traffic controllers, and there's a huge demand for it because it's a very stressful job because government runs it probably. And but we need it to travel. I want to go to Germany or Russia or China or wherever. I need an air traffic controller. Now, the other countries have them. It's just the US that's fucked up. All right. So let's look at Bitcoin. This will be a very quick one. So I stumbled on this morning.
The price of Bitcoin is falling off a cliff. The cryptocurrency has lost a whopping 29% of its value this week alone. That's a lot. And we're about to discuss why in just a moment. But first, Cenk, you went to Wharton Business School. You know about the funds and games. What's going on here?
Know about all the funds and games. Okay, so look, there's a big sell-off. That's obvious. The question is why, and there's a very interesting theory that goes to the elites maybe manipulating things.
No, they would never do that.
That would never happen. But there's also a second part, hence the 2 cents, about what is happening for the entire economy and how this might be a symbol of it. So I need you to buckle up and brace for impact.
So before we get to the reasons why this sell-off is happening, I really do want to focus a little bit longer on how big the Bitcoin sell-off really is. So here's a handy chart that you can take a look at, and you can see, wow, the price of crypto really did fall off quite a bit recently, okay? So you're looking at the price of Bitcoin over the past year, and as you can see, about a year ago, the price of Bitcoin was just under $100,000. In October of last year, the price of Bitcoin reached an all-time high of over $126,000. But since then, Bitcoin has erased all of the gains that it made last year. In fact, the price has plunged even further to approximately $67,000. So the price of Bitcoin has now reached a 15-month low, and people are wondering, is there any end in sight? So Michael Burry, the investor who was portrayed by Christian Bale in The Big Short, says no. Here's what he says. Sickening scenarios have now come within reach. Burry argued that Bitcoin has been exposed as a purely speculative asset, failing to take off as a debasement hedge similar to precious metals, because precious metals are actually worth something. Like, Bitcoin is only worth the hype. You guys get it? Like, no one has been able to convince me or explain to me otherwise.
Yeah. So what Michael Burry is saying is important, because if Bitcoin operated the way that its enthusiasts were hoping, when the dollar is struggling, it could become a hedge. Hey, we can't rely on the U.S. government or other governments, but we have this Bitcoin that's based in this system that's more sound. And so, like gold, when the dollar is weakened or the economies are weakened, it should go up. But it's not going up, it's going down. So then Burry is saying, well, economic laws and rules dictate that means it is not something that has inherent value. It is just merely speculative.
Exactly. Further losses, he said, could rapidly strain the balance sheets of major holders, force selling across the crypto ecosystem, and trigger widespread value destruction. However, you should keep in mind that cryptocurrencies are notoriously volatile, right? So there have been other instances where there have been sell-offs and then the value of crypto goes back up, or these coins go back up. But I also want to just note the fundamental argument that Burry is making here still remains true. Bitcoin in and of itself is worth nothing. It's only worth the hype. And that's why you'll hear, the crypto adherents and the fans of crypto constantly talking it up, but it's not actually worth anything on its own. So, and by the way, Bitcoin is really no exception. So 3 previous cycles have seen Bitcoin crash roughly 80% from its highs, only to rebound and drive even higher. So that goes to the point of volatility. So let's go to Bloomberg, because Bloomberg says that Bitcoin's crash is unlikely to affect the stock market overall, but we still need to discuss why this is happening right now, like what's causing this sell-off. And to do that, we need to talk about precious metals. So the prices of gold and silver had increased dramatically in recent months. That being said, those prices fluctuated wildly in recent days. So even, those assets, the value has gone down. People have been selling their gold and silver. But overall, the precious metals...
Okay, no, they haven't. Well, we'll listen to the last comment.
Trade is considered to be a hedge against the weakening dollar. Known on Wall Street as the debasement trade, the strategy is driven by fear that government's inability to tame inflation or slash debt will erode the system of currencies that underpin the...
Yes, we know that. So basically, we know Bitcoin's worthless. As I keep saying, when the dollar collapses to zero, Bitcoin is not worth anything. It's worth zero. On the other hand, gold and silver, my baby's still worth, this will be worth more. This is silver, and this has a high value. That won't go away, but Bitcoin's worthless. So Bitcoin being volatile is because it's a Ponzi scheme. Its value is that people buy it, they push the price up, so people are selling. Why are people selling? They need money. Because they're in the gold and the silver, they're in the stock market, and as they need the money, they sell their assets. Nobody is selling gold and silver, as she said. That's why I can't listen to people that are this stupid. These are all gold and silver prices gotten down because of derivative option selling that were margin called. Nobody is selling any of their gold or silver. So when I hear that, I know, okay, this interviewer is an idiot. Man, I don't like to listen to idiots. So that's impossible. Gold and silver are not being sold. Some people I've heard in some of the coin shops are selling, but they're idiots if they are. This is the buying opportunity of a lifetime, and these people are selling. These people have no idea. When it started going up, they were selling at 2,500. They were selling gold and silver. When silver hit 50, people were selling the junk silver and their silverware, sterling silver. They were selling that. Okay. All right, here's
it's still time to jump on the gold wagon here, buy some gold, physical, stored outside the banking system, where you have direct access, no ETFs, no paper gold, just physical gold that you own directly yourself. And then at least you can protect yourself from the total destruction of paper money that we will see in the next few years. It's still time to jump on the gold wagon.
You tell us. All right.
For 200,000 years, men consumed beef liver for metabolic power, beef heart for sustained. Welcome, brother. Central Bank. The price of the dollar price. Global rally anchors in both gold and silver.
All right. MMcgwire will tell us what's really going on. But don't think anybody's selling their gold or silver. Now, the idiots who don't know what they're doing, who aren't in our class, because everybody in our class knows what they're doing, except for the Bitcoin people. So what happens is it's a paper option price. It is not a physical price. It is not people buying and selling that makes the price go up. It is these options and these derivatives. We get that. And that's what's happening. So Mark will explain everything, or Andrew, his other name. It's a big Ponzi scheme, the comex. It's to keep the price down. And it backfired because what it did was allow people like us to buy, and China, Russia, and all the BRICS countries using the comex price as the buying point instead of a physical price as the buying point, which would have been much, much higher. Like I said, the physical price of silver would have been $1,000, $2,000, and we would have not been able to buy as much. But comex let us buy it at $25, $30 an ounce. And it's as simple as that. That's what happened. Thank you very much. And we're off. So let's listen to Mark about 10 minutes. He explains it pretty well, and that should make you guys feel better because I've told you not to worry, that it's a buying opportunity. Now, I fully don't understand the options inside and out, as I'm not an option player, but I understand what an option is. And I was explaining you control a lot with paper. It's a high risk. I would never buy an option because you almost always lose in the option. But you can go, you can bet it price go up. You can bet the price to go down. Basically what an option is, you control a lot of shares, but then I'd margin, and they do a margin call, and you're fucked. So that's what's been happening. All right, let's listen to MMcgwire.
Over. This time with no long speculators to target. Now, without last Friday's... The price. We've got this ticking time bomb. Talking gold with the one and only Andrew
MMcgwire.
Welcome to Live from the Vault.
You tell him, Mark.
Welcome to Live from the Vault. My name is Shane Moran, and I'm thrilled to be your host for this episode. And from the entire Live from the Vault team around the globe, we extend our heartfelt thanks to you for your unwavering support. And as you might imagine, this community keeps on expanding week by week, and we just couldn't be more excited that you've joined us here. Now, we're in the midst of historic times, as you know, and today we've got the one and only Andrew McGuire in the vault, and he's got a special interim kind of update here due to what's going on in the silver and gold markets recently. As you know, I'm pretty sure you're anxious to hear what Andy has to say.
That's right, so shut the fuck up.
Industry. And then what he's going to do is he's going to bring on our featured guest today, the one and only Craig Hemke from TF's Metals Report. So with that, let's head over to Andrew McGuire.
So, everybody, this is a very important quick interim update to assess what drove the unprecedented gold and silver sell-off, and really to reaffirm that gold 8,000 and silver $140 are absolutely on track. In fact, as we're going to see, the 100% derivative-driven sell-off has reset the most powerful central bank sovereign and institutional physical global rally anchors in both gold and silver, this time with no long speculators to target. Now, without last Friday's officially sanctioned orchestrated bailout, which is what it was, and insufficient silver to meet over 1,500 tons of silver being demanded at the back comex store, the entire too big to fail cartel deck of cards would have folded. Now let's follow the footprints. Now, just for the record, I'm recording this just at the PM fix on Wednesday. So just to put that into context, and this is where we were when we did our prior episode. So this is about first notice. Following first notice into Thursday's pit close, and this is the point where all the open interest, all the warrants have to be fully paid up or delivered. And there was 49,455 million ounces of February silver warrants standing for delivery. They had to be fully paid for by way of a cash settlement, or, as should have been the case, 1,538 tons of bullion should have been moved across the warehouse center line, the blue warehouse center line, to be physically delivered. But the registered inventory data proves that silver simply wasn't there to deliver. Hence, the single largest official intervention since the 2008 Bear Stearns bailout. We'll look at how this contagion fed into mainland China shortly. As we estimated in our last episode, without a bailout, the entire cartel deck of cards will fold. Now, given there is no silver available to fill the chasm, it meant that significantly higher prices would have to be paid for cash settlements. Now, if you remember, liquidity providers had assessed there might have been just enough takers to let the cartel off the hook at $140 for the next rally point. But following first notice, this looked more like, and here, right at first notice, they realized there was absolutely insufficient silver to meet this demand, nor even by cash settling, or the cost to cash settle would have been more like about $230 and rising. That was enough to implode the entire derivative daisy chain of too big to fail banks. Hence, this is why they knew that there was going to be insufficient silver at this price. And what they were trying to do was get it down to this level here, or below even, to try and mitigate that by rinsing out as much long interest as they could. Now, our friend Bill Holter has always maintained silver is the Achilles heel that will one day be the failure, and a failure to deliver will occur, and it will create a trust shock in the derivative market to bring the entire too big to fail 2 quadrillion derivative deck of cards to come tumbling down. Now, also, once a higher price has been validated in the onshore and the western-facing physically settled free trade zone gold and silver corridors, the new benchmark price will have exposed billions of Fed-held OCC unallocated FX bets as undeliverable. And the longer a physical support condition endures, the stickier the rising physical support levels become into a series of higher-priced hedging flows, thereby underpinning each physical market support level. Hence, a panicked intervention so large it exposed a deeply offside weak hand. Now, while we anticipated the obligatory end-of-month selling into billions of dollars of Fed-borrowed gold leases, which have to be marked to market in the Basel III NSFR-compliant FX markets, and this is the FX market, and this is always timed to be collateralized at the CME pit close, which is exactly this point here. Now, the officially orchestrated selling we encountered was far more aggressive than had been anticipated, clearly, but nevertheless, it still fixed gold another $500 higher than the $1,000. It was initially over $1,000 higher. So they managed to retrace it to, but it was still $500 higher than in December. And this is a series of every single month we've seen higher and higher settlements. And this was enough to really force the Fed to buy back leases as at the next series of these higher prices. And in fact, they borrowed 15 tons more, and it still had to be paid back higher. But here's the point. While printing more fiat to buy gold to pay back leases simply raises the price of physical gold, printing more dollars does not buy silver that isn't there. It was derivative silver that really forced the sell-off, forced the official bailout, that is. Now, Fed BIS, that's the Office of the Comptroller FX silver bets that we talk about. These are the Office of the Comptroller is a registered report, and it lists billions of dollars of gold and silver bets, which are unallocated and are not deliverable, basically hedging a derivative. These also get marked to market at exactly that time. So, of course, this is the directly related pit close. So this is the same Bank of International's options point that we saw in gold. And this is where the too big to fail bailout was focused. This evidenced every single trick in the book being exercised, such as 30% margin increases designed to pop the spec bubble, opening COMEX market limit down, driving very large bid-ask spreads into which neutral market makers become naturally unwilling to make markets in. And with the CFTC conveniently largely absent into a partial government shutdown, rampant spoofing was evident. Now, into this directional sell-off, illiquid gold futures bid-ask spreads gapped as wide as an unprecedented $5, $500 per contract. Now, it should be as tight as 10 cents, one tick. And with Shanghai silver also limit down, we evidenced COMEX bid-ask spreads as wide as $1. That's $5,000 per contract equivalent. These unprecedented illiquid conditions exposed the COMEX scam. The scam enabled momentum traders who really control 80% of all the casino chips. And what it did was saw them flip from long, and they'd been long all the way up here, and they flipped short and drove the downside action all the way from Friday to Monday's London Open. And this was the London Open here, and better seen in gold. At this exact moment was when we evidenced central bank and sovereign buyers returning to buy the dip. So while spreads were so wide, they were untradeable, very strong central bank sovereign physical demand never wavered in both gold and silver, and throughout the entire sell-off, very large SGE premiums, which net of VAT still exceeded $30 in excess of the COMEX price. And really, so into these lows, we still see China and India trading $100. Really, what did that reveal? It revealed the selling was 100% COMEX centric. This is the COMEX tail, still wagging the physical dog. But it's a dying tail. And while gold is a liquid, Basel III high quality liquid asset that can be delivered in size at higher prices, when silver is called for delivery in size in the Western asymmetrically imbalanced under priced supply demand structure, which is a derivative structure, there's simply insufficient silver available to buy at any price to deliver. And therein lays the problem and the reason the too big to fail bailout was implemented. While physically backed SGE exchanges reflect a liquid, real-time, physically determined supply-demand price where I have to own a bar to put it for sale. Diluted, leveraged CME, LBMA, unallocated silver contracts, they actually relate to just nothing but a complex synthetic derivative structure. They simply do not reflect the correct price. There's absolutely no doubt that the cartel operates as an insured agent for the wrong-footed Fed, who audibly holds the short OCC foreign exchange gold and silver book. They actually hold that book. And by Friday, with no silver available to meet delivery obligations, the too big to fail bailout was actioned. Now, the Western bailout tendrils stretch all the way into mainland China, where the only public fund investing in silver futures, which is the Western sanctioned UBS SDIC Silver Futures Fund, had to be suspended from trading following being overwhelmed by redemption requests they couldn't fulfill. Now, the fund's secondary market price represented a 64% premium over its NAV, which when they shut the door, they literally shut the door to all new subscriptions and left investors exposed to massive losses. Now, to put this fund into perspective, this is a highly speculative derivative fund and is not related to the physically backed SGE exchange. And this is where that was called. Now, bottom line, this fund is so-called, quote unquote, this open-ended fund, so for called hedged clients, these clients' silver investments with related comex positions, which became undeliverable when called off or at current prices. And because that market just broke, as such, redemption requests were unable to be fulfilled. Now, this redemption crisis contagion has now spread to similar highly leveraged virtual gold and silver platforms, also paper hedging price against a virtual COMEX benchmark. Even though they are not directly using the COMEX, they're using the price as a benchmark. These are derivative positions, hedging derivative positions, and have nothing to do with the SGE physically backed exchanges. This is one more reason that underpriced COMEX silver is being targeted by real SGE and Indian buyers who are once again lining up for a huge backdoor loadout of 49,455 million ounces. That's 1,538 tons of COMEX silver, which must be fulfilled by the 27th of February. This sell-off was designed to shake out buyers who'd stood for delivery, but here's the problem. Speculators do not stand for delivery. These are real buyers standing for delivery of underpriced bullion to meet physical silver requests they cannot get delivery of anywhere else. It hadn't gone unnoticed, the low 71s, that Shanghai physical silver was trading at a $30 premium to futures, with strong demand evident into the dip at 100, which is where Shanghai was trading. Now, currently, as I record this on Wednesday, the SGE silver price is still $30 higher than SI silver futures, and it's hit its highest February fixed level. And then, of course, what we see is this is the same game we see all over and over again. As soon as it touches moving average, we see the same momentum shorts going short again. Now, this is actually manna from heaven, because what's happening here is the physical markets are literally taking this momentum shorts and converting them into physical. And while this large rinse has basically rinsed out a very large amount of speculators, and we're still seeing 36% backwardated conditions into the London fix. That's $1,800 per contract discount to London, illustrating the official intervention has rinsed out all the speculators, but it's not relieved the CME LBMA shortages, else we wouldn't have these large backwardations. As we'd highlighted in our last episode, the LPMCL short squeeze had crystallized massive losses for the cartel. Net of any legitimate hedging positions, COMEX front month position limits are limited to 3,000 contracts. Now, that would have netted out to a 19 billion loss per member. And we had an example of that with TD alone. So into unprecedented silver shortages, if a 30% market sell-off could not have been orchestrated, which it was, it would have led to a potential too big to fail, daisy chain collapse, and it still might. Any more attempts to target deeper moving averages will backfire. So we have a perfect hit of the 50 here, this is where the buyers came in, and we had a similar hit of the 50-day moving average in gold. This is really the tail wagging the physical dog. Now, the House has thrown as many capping headwinds as possible against gold futures and silver, raising margin costs in gold futures from 6 to 8%, and in silver, 30% higher, from 11% to 15%. However, there are no spec longs left to rinse, so the increase carry across way more on the momentum shorts, who actually control 80% of all the speculative open interest. And they've now flipped from naked long on the way up to naked short, indicating the hard tests of the rising 50-day moving averages in both gold and silver really triggered very large sovereign buying in silver and very, very large central bank buying in gold in very large size. Also institutional buyers really forging what should be a very solid bottom. Now, while spreads are still wide, they're starting to contract. Now, while Friday through Monday, that is, this absolute sell-off into the London Open. Now, while that has relieved the immediate too big to fail problem, it has yet to fully backfire into known very large central bank sovereign institutional physical buying, as benchmarked by physically blacked SGE fixes, which are steadily undermining the LPMCL's control of FX silver market pricing, forcing unallocated dilutive local London fixes to become deliverable. And this is what's been driving the one-year silver lease costs to around 9%, because the LPMCL has to borrow silver to rob Peter to pay Paul. It has still left a massive physical shortfall yet to be paid back, as benchmarked by SGE physical supply demand prices, where I have to own a bar to put it up for sale. However, SGE positions are physically backed, indicating sub-spot 100 is actually digging a deeper hole for Western officials to climb out from. Now, as we've said, the ballooning bubble momentum longs have now gone bubble short. And what they're doing is rising. As we rise up, they're still selling. And what I'm trying to make the point of here is it turned exactly at the 28-day moving average, which is pretty much an institutional level. What they've done is now reverse it back to where the pit closed. Now, it really is just last gaming, but we've seen the price is over $100 right now in Shanghai. So this is ludicrous, and it's being picked up by every single physical buyer right now. Bearing in mind that hedgers and producers no longer play in the COMEX sandpit. You get a far more liquid, reliable supply-demand price, with a lot less volatility than you do in these paper markets. So right now, we're seeing we've seen up to 40 cents, 36-cent backwardated conditions, illustrating the official intervention has not relieved the CME LBMA shortages at all, and that's not gone unnoticed. February gold standing for delivery has 85.6 tons, and while the bailout relieves some pressure, the bulk of the open interest remaining in gold is sticky. All the first-tier liquidity providers we spoke to are reporting very strong central bank sovereign and institutional demand has stepped up sub-spot 5,000. The only remaining sellers are the momentums, who, as I say, control pretty close to 80% of the COMEX open interest, who've now flipped from bubble long to bubble short, this time with market-making bullion banks all on the long side. The 20% gold drawdown has evidenced fresh calls for $6,300 gold from JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. We have Deutsche Bank, Saxo, Julius Baer, first-tier liquidity providers, alongside several other major trading houses, in aggregate, have expectations that it will take $8,000 gold before any kind of gold exhaustion will be seen. Heraeus also notes retail demand for gold and silver has also returned, with reports of queues in China, Singapore, India to buy the dips. Fundamentally, nothing has changed. Central bank, sovereign, and institutional debasement demand continues unabated. And while very short-term price has been driving the action, it's just provided stackers an opportunity to add to the stack, just the same. In silver too, adding to the stack. The pullback through 80 drove very, very strong demand. And bearing in mind, we were talking $30 premiums above this in Shanghai. So fundamentally, nothing has changed. Central bank, sovereign, and institutional debasement demand continues unabated. And while very short-term price has been driving the action, it really has just provided stackers an opportunity to add to the stack. So in summary, no one I have spoken to has sold a single ounce of their physical gold or silver into the derivative sell-off. In fact, anyone close to the physical markets realizes this, and they therefore realize it was a bailout, which further underlines the race into physical assets are exposing unfactored derivative stress. And what that's doing is emboldening the race into safe havens to really accelerate. Also, we're evidencing cues around the block into rationed physical supply, evidencing the debasement trade continues front and center. Now, if I want to go and buy a silver bar right now, today, I have to take a lottery ticket, I have to stand outside a bullion dealer and hope I'm called in before the end of the day. That's how tight. I've never seen it this tight. So with that said, I'm going to bring in our good friend Craig.
We don't care about Craig. So what this sounds like is the frenzy of the Titanic. People are starting to realize what's happening. You're waiting all day to go into a bullion dealer to buy a gold or silver. People are realizing that's bullshit, that the price is way cheaper than it should be. There's a $30 spread between the US and China. People are getting out of the COMEX market into the China market because it's more stable and more liquid. I can buy physical, I can sell it, not with the stupid options and stupid margins and all that, and margin calls. The whole option COMEX is done. That's it. The orcs are done. So it's winding down, right? The Titanic's sinking, but it hasn't sunk yet, as everybody likes to. What time is it going to sink? So you can see, we know from Pat from Singapore, there's 5-6 hour lines to get into the coin stores if they can even get it, if there's even inventory available. So it's dried up. There's very little gold and silver physical available. Not that it's gone. It's sitting in China. It's sitting in Russia. It's sitting in Iran, or probably Iran too. Sitting in India and in Dubai and Saudi Arabia and Brazil. All the BRICS countries have all the gold and silver except for us. We have some. I doubt there's any in Fort Knox. If there was, pull it out, raise the price, and pay your debt off. Here, nothing's changed. You got a $39 trillion debt that you got to pay interest on. You got to pay all the government employees in a system where there's no revenue. And there's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all that you got to pay, and the defense contractors. So you got to pay more than you got coming in. That can't last. And I mean, think about it. You make $1,000 a month and you spend $2,000 a month. How long is that going to last? So the frenzy looks like it's happening. And this was the last play to get out to market before the banks collapsed. And that's why you saw this drop of paper, but not physical. So I always tried to stress that. Nothing changed in the physical. It's still the same. But COMEX is breaking and cracking and going out. And it's just, it's like the Titanic hit the iceberg. The water is coming in and it's slowly sinking. And that's what's happening. So now we have a very good understanding of what's going on. Mark, like I said, he usually doesn't come on. This would have been done next Friday, but because he saw what happened, he needed to explain it. And he gets the charts, but it's basically saying it keeps going up and up and up. And he's calling for $8,000 gold, $150 silver. That hasn't changed. That's in the physical world we live, which is what we talk about. We do not talk about the paper world because it's fixed. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's a Madoff. We show it for what it is. It's a Madoff Ponzi scheme. We don't play with Madoff Ponzi schemes. That's why we go to physical and we play physical. We're in the physical world. And everything in the physical world hasn't changed. Highly, highly demanded, and no supply that they can find. And that's all that happens. And the people in the comex, where they had nowhere else to buy the silver and gold, however, excuse me. So there was nowhere else they can go. So they're trying to buy it out of comex because they think there's still silver there, but there isn't. Gold, you see, is almost 5,000 again. Yes, we saw 5,500 gold, up 5,600 almost. We saw 120 silver. That's where it's going. And this was the fight, and they lost the fight. They're trying to, well, we're going to do margin calls. And he was talking about the wide spreads, and but there isn't any physical. And in Shanghai, you need the bar. A one-on-one thing. I got a 100-ounce bar. That's what I'm going to sell it for, and that's okay. It's physical, just like my Canadian club, not an option price. Where I don't really have the physical, but I have the options. I have I'm controlling all this with paper, with options, and it doesn't matter. And then the derivative market is collapsing, and it's according to Egon, it's a really big derivative market, which is about to collapse. And mostly because people are idiots. It's not even that they're greedy. It's that they're stupid. It's much better to buy physical. Why are people still buying options thinking that's a good play? Because they don't understand. As this lady was saying on Bitcoin, well, it's, people were selling their gold and silver. Nobody sold an ounce of gold or silver. Like I said, there was a few people at one of these stores that was doing it. I'm going to go to my store and I'll research that, and I'll tell you that tomorrow. But nobody should be like, people who don't know panic sell. And then they probably beat themselves up, like when they were selling at 2,500 gold, and now it's at 5,000, and they're probably going, oh, fuck, what did we do? And the same thing with silver. They were selling it at $35, $40 an ounce. And now it's, close to 80 again. And they're probably going, what the fuck am I doing? They don't understand. It's not anywhere close. I went into the store and told them it would be $20,000 gold and it would be at least $1,000 silver. And they laughed. And now who's got the last laugh? He who laughs last. He who laughs last laughs best. So we're laughing best, as the Joker would say. So that's really what happened. It was all paper. I know we got the one guy from India who's freaking out, and I told him just buy physical. Some guy had ETFs. I told him to get out of it. I don't know if he did, but those are a bigger Ponzi scheme than the comex. Do I have allergies? No, it's cold. It's wintertime. All right, so that's that. That's MMcgwire. Good news. $8,000 gold, 1,500 silver. Nothing has changed. Hold your physical. Off you go. I really don't know what happened in the stock market. I did show you Bitcoin at 67,000, not 100, not 120. Now that was a Bitcoin people. Those people were kind of weird. Not that the elites would profit take or anything like that, which is just bullshit, of course. And it's Larry Fink, and probably, it's probably people in Bitcoin selling to either buy gold or because they lost in the options on gold, they needed money. And that's what's going to happen now as everything starts going under, as the stock market starts collapsing. People will sell their stocks because they'll need money, and they're going to sell their Bitcoin if they're stupid enough to be in that because they need money. And they're probably already selling because they can see the price dropping, and it broke like 80,000 and then through the 70s and now 60. So as that's going down, I don't know anybody jumping into that, but now they're confused. Well, wait, gold and silver's collapsing. You're not going to get into the dollar. So this is a fiendish Joker. I'll use him again. Play where he's confusing everybody and nobody knows what to get into. Well, I'll get into the stock market. That'll be safe. I can't trust gold. I can't trust Bitcoin. I'll get into that. I mean, not that the stock market's ready to collapse also. John C. So George Soros, I assume you're talking George Soros is a big scammer. He's a Nazi. That's enough you need to know. He's He's trying to crash the dollar, and he's doing a good job. He controls Trump, and his guy, Scott Simpson, is the Treasury Secretary, is clueless too. He's on Soros's team. So George Soros is a very bad person, very evil. Oh, again, he's a Nazi, and you got to be careful with him. So yeah, you just avoid him, and that's why owning the physical keeps you free, and that's the key to it. All these digital things, I think with the Bitcoin crash, I don't know that they're going to be able to launch the stable coin or any digital coin. If they do, avoid it unless you have to get it for your Social Security, which I hopefully not. But again, I am hoping it's an option. See, nobody's very clear at explaining it. In other words, there's Bitcoin, but we can still use this, and we can still use this. We don't have to be in Bitcoin. If I go to the restaurants or the grocery stores, I'm still using this on a debit card or credit card. I'm not using digital. They're not set up for digital. So in that standpoint, I'm just hoping digital stays away. This whole control thing, this whole cars with the kill switch and the cars tracking you. Well, I don't really give a shit if they track me going to Kroger's, or they track me going to the barbecue place, or they track me going to swim. Who cares? I mean, who's going to waste their time? There's 350 million people. They don't have the resources, even with AI, to track. They might, what are they going to say? Where am I going to go? I mean, this is what people say this, and they worry about it, but it's really impractical. Stable coin, I'm not buying it. The only way I'm taking it is if my Social Security payment goes to stable coin and I have to take it, then I'll do it. But the rest of my stuff will be in credit card and debit card and my silver and gold. So I'm curious to go to my store, but last time, I'm watching, the dealers won't take silver and all that bull. I went to him, he's like, yeah, no problem, we'll take it. So I don't think he's changing one iota. The difference will be if he doesn't use COMEX, will he use Shanghai? That'll be the curious part. All right. Anything else on that? Let me know. We're gonna just look at the Super Bowl, which we've looked at. Do I have any? This U.S. government price floor will never work. So that's problem solving that. So we're still 76.29 silver, 49.44 gold. So gold hanging around 5,000, we got to be happy with. NFL weather. Let's look at the Super Bowl. It's on Sunday at 6:30. All right, Super Bowl. So we got 58 degrees, no wind, some fog at kickoff. Second quarter, a little bit of fog, 58, no wind. 57 in the third quarter, no wind, and 55, 4-mile-an-hour winds. So it's very mild with no wind. So that should be fine. Let's check the line one more time. So we see 4.5, 45.5. That hasn't moved. Let's see if there's any. There really isn't any major injuries, but let's double check it anyway. Let's see, Seahawks We'll view all the injuries, but I don't think there's anything. Charbonnet, I know, is out. Zach Charbonnet's on injured reserve. And that's it. They don't even show the other guy, Darnold. Pat's injuries. Nobody I ever heard, but there's not too many players on New England I've heard of. Harold Landry, questionable at the knees, a linebacker. I think he's from LSU. That's why I would know him. And that's it. So there's really no injuries here. And so when we look at the last five, Seattle beats the Rams 31-27, the Niners 41-6, the Niners 13-3, Carolina 27-10, and the Rams 38-37, which they actually lost 37-36. So, you're going to give up points to the Rams, but against the Niners, who were scoring a lot, and even Carolina, who scored a little, they 6-3-10. New England is totally false. So they beat Denver 10-7, Houston 28-16, San Diego 16-3, and then of course Miami and the Jets, which couldn't win games in the SEC. So they beat them 42-10, 38-10. Okay, let's ignore that. San Diego 16-3, a good defensive game. Houston, they got 5 turnovers from C.J. Stroud. 28-16, and then 10-7 against Jarrett Stidham. So when you're looking at the defense, all right, the Jets in Miami, no quarterback. Tugulavua didn't play, 10-10. 3 against San Diego with Herbert, he stinks. 16 to Houston with C.J. Stroud. I mean, that's a lot. And then 7 to Stidham with their backup quarterback. However, when you hear the news or on the radio, they don't get into the detail. They'll say, look, they've given up 10, 20, 30, 46 points in 5 games, which is 9 points a game. However, when you look at who they played, it wasn't the Rams and it wasn't the Niners and it wasn't Buffalo. In fact, when they did play Buffalo, they gave up 35. And this is what's skewing their defense. So you have to read their defense. So let's go into view all New England. James, hello. Harold Landry went to BC. Well, there was a Landry that went to LSU. Maybe another Landry. Whatever. Not important. So let's look at regular season in this great New England defense. They start off losing to Oakland 20-13. Gave up 27 to Miami. They gave up 21 to Pitt. 13 to Carolina, okay. Buffalo, they beat 23-20 in that Sunday night game. New Orleans gets 19 on them. Tennessee, no offense, 13. Cleveland, no offense, 13. Atlanta puts up a 23 on them, and they lose 24-23. Tampa, okay, they're a good team, 23 points. The Jets is 14. Cincinnati without Joe Burrow, he didn't play in this game, 20. I wish he'd have played. Then we would have really got a thing on New England's defense. The Giants, no offense, 15. Buffalo puts up the 35 on them. Baltimore, 24. And then what I just said, the Jets and New England. So against decent teams, a.k.a. Buffalo and Cincinnati, but without Burrow, they give up 35. They give up 20. 23 to Tampa and 23 to Atlanta. Probably a Penix game. Let's see if Penix played in this game. Yeah, Penix was 22 of 37, 221 yards and 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. So why do people think Penix is no good? So, yeah, they struggle against a good quarterback. That's my point. And you can see from Seattle, you just have to look at the last 5. 38-37 with the Rams, 31-27 with the Rams, 41-6 on the Niners is huge, and 13-3 on the Niners, and 27-10 Carolina. So what does it show you? They are scoring, right? Now the Rams don't have a that good of a defense. The Niners do, and they put up a 41 and a 13. But their defense gave up 6 to the Niners, 3 to the Niners, and then you can't look at the Rams. New England does not have Stafford and Pukanuka, but they did beat them. So they beat the Niners twice, the Rams twice. So that's kind of why I'm on Seattle, where New England beats the backup quarterback on Denver, C.J. Stroud, who's not even an NFL quarterback, and Justin Herbert, who struggles, and then of course Miami without Tagovailoa, and the Jets, no matter who they played at quarterback, it was. Let's take a look just for the hell of it. Who are the Jets playing at quarterback in that game? The Jets's played. Brady Cook. Yeah, Brady Cook, 19 of 33, 150 yards and an interception. And then, so Brady Cook, they beat. So that's what you've got. We didn't get a real good look because they didn't play Bo Nix, right? Then we could have said, okay. Stidham, whatever. Houston, C.J. Stroud, he's terrible. 5 interceptions and a pick 6. So you can't get anything out of that. And San Diego with Herbert, he wants to run too much. So they haven't played an offense like Seattle except for Buffalo, Tampa, and Cincinnati without Joe Burrow. And they were in the 20s there. That's why I like Seattle to win. And I like the game under because I think defensively, I do think they're not all there. They're not a 10-10, 3-16, and 7 defense who they played here. They're more of the 35-31 Buffalo game. So that's how I see it. Darnell, he's going to run Walker, Kenneth Walker. He's got Smith-Njigba. I don't know who else Seattle has as receivers. Let's go into the Ram game. They win 31-20. Let's see who played for them. Let's see who we're looking at. All right. Stafford, 22 of 35, 374 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. That's your great Seattle defense. Running, Blake Corum, 9 for 55, Williams, 10 for 39. Receiving, Pukanuka, 9 for 165 and a touchdown. Jesus. Devontae Adams, 4 for 89. Parkinson, Corum, Williams, Higbee, you can't tell me how great this defense is. I think we've seen it. But it's against that type of team, and that's not what New England is. Darnold, 25 of 36, 346, 3 touchdowns. Okay, maybe he won't choke. Kenneth Walker, 19 of 62 for a 1 touchdown. And that was it because they don't have Charbonnet. But because it was such a high-scoring game, they couldn't really run that much. Receiving, Smith-Njigba, 10 for 153 and 1 touchdown. Targeted 12 times. Shaheed he had 1 for 51 yards. Kenneth Walker, 4 for 49. Cooper Kupp, Cooper Kupp, 4 for 36. Holani, 3 tight end. No, he's a running back. And Bobo, I think he played for Georgia, 1 for 17. And that's it. So they got Shaheed running back the kicks. Very strong. So that's what you have. So you've got Cooper Kupp, you got Walker running, you got Smith-Njigba, Shaheed, Cooper Kupp, and even Walker out of the backfield. So you're okay there. So, I don't know that Darnold's going to get sacked 12 times. New England should know to put pressure in the middle. That's what Detroit and the Rams did last year. I believe it was the Rams or the Eagles who played Minnesota in the play. No, it had to be the Rams, I think, who put the pressure on him, and he fell apart. Now he can run Walker to avoid that, and that's what he's been doing. And they've been Smith-Njigba is there, but he had Justin Jefferson last year, so that's a cancellation. He does have a better runner back with Walker than he had at Minnesota. So does he now know how to play in a big game? Because he's pretty good against weak teams the last 2 years. So we give him credit for that, but we can't give him credit for the big game. So against the Rams, 31-27, yeah, he played pretty well, threw for 300 yards. Did they pressure him up the middle? Aaron Donald wasn't there. Is New England going to pressure up the middle? This I don't know. They do have some sacks, but we'll see. Again, it's hard to say because they only got 10 points on Denver, and 7 was a gift on that bullshit backwards pass, which was a forward pass that the defensive guy knocked backwards. So that was it. They got a gift touchdown, and that was it. Against Houston, they got a pick 6 and some other interceptions that set them up deep. And against San Diego, they did nothing. So that's why I'm not all in for New England. I don't think they can win the game, and I certainly think they're not going to score a lot against this defense. I think it'll be like a Frisco game where Purdy and McCaffrey did their thing, but that was it, and they held them to 3-6. That's kind of my take on it. Is New England better than the Niners, especially the number 1 seed game where it's 13-3. They're not better than that Niner team. That's no chance. The Rams different. The Rams are a passing explosive offense. You can't do it. New England's not a passing explosive offense. They're about a 24 offense the last 5 games. Well, we can see right here. Well, see, it's skewed because they put up 42 on the Jets and 38 on Miami. So if we look at the last 3 games, 16, 28, and 10 is 54 divided by 3s, an 18 offense. Yeah, so in the playoffs, they're about an 18 offense. And then they're a 13 defense, and Seattle's about a 30 offense with a 14 defense last 5 or 6 games. So in the big games, that's what I'm using is who they really are. And I just see low scores with New England, San Diego 16-3, Denver 10-7. So I'm seeing low score, and I'm shocked that the Houston game got to 44. Oh, yeah, they had a kick return in that game, didn't they? Yeah, the first play was a kickoff. So they had a kickoff return and a pick 6 for 14 of their points. So they only got 14 on offense. Okay. Yeah, that's why you got to dig into it. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a low-scoring game. I don't see New England scoring a lot. They do have a decent defense. Will Darnold light them up like Josh Allen did, where he got 35 on him? I think it'll be more like a Baker Mayfield game, 28-23, except for Seattle's got a much better defense than Tampa. Tampa's defense, they didn't even make the playoffs, Tampa. They got screwed. I can go back. Tampa's defense was Tampa had a 23 defense, but you're facing a 16 defense in Seattle. So, yeah, I think Seattle gets in. Like I said, my predictions 27-10, 30-10. 30-10 was my first. So if we stick with our gut instinct, it's 30-10. But I just think Seattle can score, and Kenneth Walker's gonna dominate, and then we'll hit Smith and Jimba, and they'll be all over, and they'll try to blitz them, but we'll see. But I think defensively is where Drake May is not ready for this. Drake May is not a very good quarterback. He's a good running quarterback. We've seen Lamar in big games, and he doesn't show up. Drake May really didn't show up against Denver or San Diego. And from what I just said, he didn't really show up against Houston. He struggled, a lot of sacks, holds the ball too long. I think Seattle will get to him. But the key is Seattle beat this great Ram team like twice. All right, 31-27. And beating the Niners. The Niners were scoring. They played the Bears to that 80-point game right on Sunday night. And they just shut them down. I mean, 13-3. All right, Kittle was out the second one, but it was 41-6. So let's take the first game, 13-3. Kittle played. Where was it? So my point is they've been beating some very good teams, and I just looking at who they beat and looking at who New England beat, it's a huge edge to New England. Again, the Denver game, had Bo Nix played, then we could say, yeah, beating Houston with the way they did was nothing, and San Diego was not that good anyway. And Harbaugh, I'm not a big Harbaugh fan, either one of them. I'm not surprised that John Harbaugh was fired. I don't know why he was there that long. I don't know why he used Lamar as quarterback. Lamar is my wide receiver, like Hines Ward, like Anton Randall L. He is not a quarterback. So Baltimore will never win with Lamar at quarterback. So this Jesse Minter's coming in, and I would bet $1,000 Lamar will still be quarterback. And they'll not do anything because who knows how good Jesse Minter is. I don't understand. They hire these coaches who have no, there's no real solid coaching experience. Now you've got Harbaugh, but he hasn't shown any positive coaching. He's been more of a choke. He's a loser. He loses all. He did beat Jim in the Super Bowl as his only Super Bowl win. But Jim's no roses either. He's not won anything. College, he had to cheat to win at Michigan. So I don't know. I'm like all these coaches that none of them have experience. Now the Bears got lucky with Ben Johnson, and now it shows how weak Dan Campbell is, because as soon as Ben Johnson goes and wins the division with Chicago, and the Lions don't even make the playoffs. If Dan Campbell was the coach, they would have made the playoffs. They couldn't handle a harder schedule. Then you've got Seattle with this Mike McDonald coach, who is a defensive coach who's looking okay. All right, let's give them credit for that. So there's two coaches that have gone on without any experience, have done well. Okay. I didn't like McDonald last year. I thought he was very weak. So is it the offensive coordinator? Is it the coach? Because I'm sure shit going, it ain't Campbell, it's Ben Johnson, and he's basically the offensive coordinator of Chicago. So it's hard to say what it is. I think this league sucks. I think it's the worst I've ever seen. It's the worst roughing I've ever seen. You have very little. Seattle's not the best team in the league, and New England's certainly not the best team. If Kansas City and New England played the same schedule, KC would be in the Super Bowl, not New England. New England got a very bad schedule, and New England had the very easiest schedule. And that's why New England's there. They get a break with playing Houston and CJ Stroud. Then they get a break playing Denver without Bo Nix. Bo Nix is playing, Denver wins the game. So they did get lucky, but now their luck's run out. James, who Jets hire? I don't know. Did the Jets hire a coach? Well, let's take a look. Well, the Jets have the Lions coach. That sucked. So the Jets weren't getting a new coach. So they got the defensive coordinator from the Lions, who was very weak, and the Jets sucked this year too, because this coach sucks. So they didn't get a new coach. They weren't looking for a new coach. They will next year when he goes, and he'll go 1-20 and 1-20. Jim Schwartz resigns as Browns defensive coach after being passed up for team's head coaching job. Well, because he was a head coach at the Lions and he sucked. So I'm not quite sure why anybody would think he's a good coach. I love this. How to watch the 26th Super Bowl for free. It's called NBC. Get an antenna. I have an antenna. It's this rubber antenna. Plug it in the back of the TV that says antenna slot. You plug it in and you watch the game for free. So you can get an antenna on your TV and watch the game on NBC for no cost. Well, the cost of the antenna, but I've had it for 5 years now. Super Bowl 60 picks, best bets, Las Vegas odds makers. Do we want to trust the Las Vegas odds makers? No, because the Las Vegas odds makers are only going to tell us who they need. Oh, a lot of money's coming in on Seattle. Hey, take Denver, or vice versa. So we don't care. We don't know how good they are anyway. Pats, Bill Belichick, and Kraft have to wait on the Hall of Fame. As far as I'm concerned, Belichick's a cheater, and if we go by the Pete Rose guidelines, then if you cheat, you don't get in. Now, I don't agree with that, but I think Rose should have got in because he got 4,000 fucking hits. But Belichick, without Tom Brady, he wouldn't have won anything. And that's the mark I look at it. It's just like Andy Reid didn't win anything. And then he gets Mahomes, and now he's won 3 or 4 Super Bowls. It was Mahomes. Because at Philadelphia, Andy Reid didn't do shit. (2027) Hall of Fame class, Gronkowski. Rob Gronkowski, Adrian Peterson leads stacked group of first-time Canada. Oh, that's for 2027. Who gives a fuck? 2026, Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, Luke Kuechly, Adam Vinatieri, and Roger Craig earning enshrinements. Among those left out, Bill Belichick. Eli Manning is not a Hall of Famer. Roger Craig is not a Hall of Famer. Luke Kuechly is not a Hall of Famer. Maybe Larry Fitzgerald, and Drew Brees definitely is one. So I don't know anybody crying about Belichick. Who cares? It's getting terrible anyway because it's just meaningless. I can't believe Roger Craig's in it. See, it waters it down when you start letting in these second stringers in there. Roger Craig, best known for fumbling in the 1990 playoff game against the Giants, costing the Niners a 3-peat, which they would have played Buffalo, and which would have been a great game, which the Niners would have won. Stafford wins the MVP. Why is Drake May even up there? It's beyond me. Vrabel wins Coach of the Year. Okay, he took a weak team playing the worst schedule, and he's there. I think the Coach of the Year should have been the Seattle coach. You think? Okay. Cowboys will play NFL's first game in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Didn't they do that last year? Or no, that was Kansas City, San Diego. Why are we playing a game in fucking Brazil? Probably the heaviest soccer city in the world or country, and you want to play football, and you think anybody's going to care. Like I said, I was in Berlin at my hotel, and they had the bar, and they had the TV on, and soccer was on. And I see it's 10 o'clock at night, the NFL is going to start. Could you put on the NFL game? They go, we don't watch American football here, just soccer. I said, okay. So that's the key. You're going to countries that don't care about it. What is the point of playing the game there? I don't get it. Patriots battered and bruised offensive line is in for toughest test in a postseason full of them. Well, if the line, there you go. That's a lock, New England, then, or a lock, San Diego, Seattle. So the under looks even better because if you can't block, they're not going to do anything. Drake May's going to run. He ain't going to run anywhere. Fitz was amazing. Won me big bets back in the day with Pitt. In college, I didn't even hear of him in college. I won on the Super Bowl game with Kurt Warner and him, but it was Kurt Warner that I was more looking at too. Anyway, I think that's about it. So we know gold and silver. Just keep buying it. Just keep holding it. Super Bowl Sunday, 6:30. Again, the free pick is Seattle under. That's in a teaser. Somebody asked me what's my teaser pick. It's $50. See, it's a little unusual because normally I charge $100 a week or 75 a week for the pros, but I'm giving you 5-6 teasers. And in this situation, there's only one game. So I went down to $50 for the game. And we know it's Seattle under with some other part of it. And that was it. So I don't know. I don't know how interested people are in the Super. I think it's becoming like a little bit too hyped, too showtime. It's like all sports; they're really fading now. The biggest problem why baseball was popular was Mickey Mantle, right? Oh, I got to watch it. Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and Sandy Koufax and Gibson, and that made it popular as the stars. And now baseball has no stars. Football, Mahomes and Burrow, but there's no stars in this game. You've got nothing. You've got Darnold, who's a choke, and you've got Drake May, who nobody has a clue what he is. He's certainly not MVP. He's not any good. He played a weak schedule. He runs too much, and they all run too much. As Tom Brady said, the quarterback now doesn't read the play. He's not. It was a short Tom Brady, and he basically doesn't. Quarterbacks don't know how to read defenses. They don't check out of plays when the safety comes up. They're not developed, the quarterbacks. They don't develop in college, and then they expect them the first year to play. Drake May is not ready to play quarterback. Drake May had some good games against weak teams. 31 on Buffalo. That was a good game. The Denver game, he was hellacious, and he really was terrible against San Diego, and he wasn't great against Houston. Now, Houston with the best defense, we understand. But Denver, where were you against Denver? Their defense wasn't good. The Giants put up 33 on them. They beat the Giants, 36-33 or 33-32 or something? That's not a great defense. They gave up a lot of points to what was that game? Buffalo. They beat 33-30 Denver. That's not a great defense they were playing, and yet they get 10 points. Oh, it snowed. Didn't snow till the second half. And in the snow, you get points. Look at the Bear game against Green Bay. It was freezing cold, and it was 31-27. Also, Caleb is not an elite quarterback. Excuse me. Caleb's in a good system, but Caleb did throw 3 interceptions in the game against the Rams. The Rams won 20-17 because Caleb threw 3 picks. He had the miracle throw because the cornerback, for some reason, didn't stay with the receiver, which I don't understand. Talking about fixed. So it made Caleb look good. He does these circus throws. However, that's because he's scrambling around for 5 minutes, but then he still throws a lot of interceptions. So I'm not buying he's an elite quarterback. I'm buying he's an average quarterback who scrambles around, and then they make these circus catches. Well, C.J. Stroud used to do that a couple of years ago. Now C.J. Stroud sucks and shouldn't be in the league. Sort of like Steve Young at Carolina, and now we're seeing Drake May run a little bit, and Herbert, who runs a little bit. All these running a little bit quarterbacks who can't read defenses, and I think that's what you got. So when I heard that Caleb is an elite quarterback, I almost drove off the road because Caleb's an average quarterback who makes circus plays. But at the end of the day, when the Bears needed him to win, he throws an interception, and then the Rams go down and win. Right? The Bears should have won that playoff game, and they should have played Seattle last week. However, Caleb threw 3 picks, especially in overtime. So it's the good and the bad. He's very inconsistent, which does not make him elite. Elite, Joe Burrow. Elite, Mahomes. Elite, Aaron Rodgers. Elite, I think there's a couple other ones. But I don't think he's better than Jalen Hurts, terrible, and C.J. Stroud's terrible. I don't think I don't think Darnell's elite, and I certainly don't think Caleb's anywhere near elite. Then we got JJ McCarthy, who shouldn't be in the league. That was a joke. And Jordan Love. So I think Caleb's with Jordan Love. They're average quarterbacks, throw a lot of picks, aren't ready for, can't. They're not winners, basically. So Caleb just throws a lot of dances around, and the coverage kind of breaks down, and the receiver goes back behind the coverage, and that's when they do something. And so that to me is just high school ball, run around and get open. That's not NFL quarterbacking, and he's certainly not elite. If he didn't throw the 3 interceptions against the Rams, I might call him a good quarterback, but he's not. He's average. And the Bears got lucky. They had the weak schedule. See, now the NFL is becoming, if you play the weak schedule, the strong schedule. So they're playing the weak schedule, and that's the point. Is you're playing the weak schedule. New England, the Bears, these teams are in the playoffs playing the weak schedule. Now we give the Bears credit for beating Philadelphia, which was running the ball, not Caleb. And then the Lions and Kansas City and Baltimore are not in it because of the hard schedule. And I think it's a joke. It shouldn't be that hard. You should add a couple of hard teams, but KC, 2 Denvers, 2 San Diegos, a Philadelphia, Detroit, a Buffalo, Baltimore. I mean, Houston, Jacksonville beat them. KC, I think, was flat because they had been to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row. You watch KC next year. They'll have the easier schedule. They'll go 15-2. They'll be back in the Super Bowl. But that's what happens. You get emotionally exhausted because it drains you to get into the Super Bowl, right? You have to win all these playoff games, and then you're in the Super Bowl, and that's emotional. And to do that 2 years in a row drains you. But for what KC did 3 years in a row, and then they get the hard schedule, and then some guys move on because you start taking the money and you've won the Super Bowl, you move on. And Kelsey looks like he's dead, and so they need to replace him. And the receivers are not very good there, and Pacheco's okay. So they got to revamp their defense, and after that. But that's the key. KC's still the team to beat because they got Mahomes. He's elite. Caleb, you think Caleb's in Mahomes' class? You're out of your fucking mind. Not even close. There's the only 2 people in Mahomes' class is him and Joe Burrow. That's it. Period. Aaron Rodgers used to be there. He's getting old, but he knows what he's doing. He knows how to read a defense. Stafford's in there. The Josh Allen's in there. I don't think I included them. I knew there was others. I couldn't think of them. So those 5 or 6, and then you got this gap, and then we're like a Jared Goff who's stinks, but he's okay. He can make crossing patterns, but if you put pressure on him or they can't run, he falls apart. Throws 5 interceptions in the big games. Doesn't win the big games against Minnesota. Against Minnesota and Pitt this year had to win, didn't show up. Last year, 15-2, but in the playoff game against Washington, doesn't show up. Year before against the Niners, second half, doesn't show up. He doesn't show up a lot. He's not that good. He's never clutch. He's never been clutch. He's never won a big game. And I don't consider beating the Rams and Tampa at home in a playoff game winning big games. Those are not big games. There were playoff games against weak teams. The Rams were struggling that year. Tampa only won because Philadelphia fell apart. Now, if he would have beat Philadelphia and then went to Frisco, okay, then I would have said, yeah, he beat Philly, but he didn't do that. So he's not a winner, that's for sure. And he doesn't get emotional. He's not stoic, but he doesn't get emotional. Anyway, he's not an elite. And, CJ Stroud shouldn't be there. Cam Ward sucks. Steve Young sucks. Daniels, I think, will be there if he can stay healthy. Penix is on his way if he can stay healthy. I like how he hurts his knee and they go, well, he's injury prone. Oh, how about the other? Mahomes hurt his knee. Is he injury prone? No, I don't think so. Jalen Hurts shows he sucks. CJ Stroud shows he sucks. Bo Nix, I think, is getting to the elite status. He's a very good quarterback. Unfortunately, he got hurt, but he did win the game against Buffalo, didn't he? He won the game against Buffalo with that nice pass. They got the touchdown, then he threw, and he got the interference call. Then they kicked the field goal to win it, and he did that with a broken ankle. So yeah, pretty good. Now we'll see this year. Mendoza's not going to be anything. You draft him one, forget about it. It's a waste of time. And especially now the way the league is to start him right away. I showed you Mendoza's stats 2 years ago at Cal. It was 16 touchdowns and 6 picks. Hardly a number one draft pick. Best quarterback, Dagio Pava, who could move up. Will he be elite? He's very good. We'll have to see how he translates to the pros, but winning at New Mexico State and then winning at Vanderbilt in the SEC, he's good because he played against the best, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and he won. And then he goes and kills Tennessee. In his last game, he puts up 49 on a decent Tennessee team. So, yeah, he's very good. To ignore him because he's 5'9" and 180 that's like ignoring Drew Brees, Warren Moon, and all these other guys that apparently you need to be 6'2" to play quarterback in the league. Really, I don't know about that. That's never been proven. So we definitely have a quarterback problem, and then they throw him right in. So Mendoza's going to start for Oakland. What? So they're going 3 games maybe with Mendoza. He's not the answer. The answer is getting Reuben Baines, playing him with Max Crosby, and having a killer defense. That's how you start it, right? That's what you need. Joe Green, Jack Ham, Jack Lambert, Dwight White, Mel Blount. That's how you win. Is you get a good. But by the way, Joe Green was not a defensive end, edge rusher. He was a defensive tackle who got more sacks than the edge rushers. Right. So there's many ways to get to the quarterback, and you don't have to be a defensive end. Reuben Baines there, the Bailey from Texas Tech. Those are the guys you need to draft in the first round, not Mendoza. Dagio, yeah, he's a mid-first rounder, but that's it. Robertson from Baylor is very good. Utah, Devin Dampier is very good. He's Lamar who can throw. Devin Dampier actually can throw the ball. So that's where I'm at with that. It's really stupid. Some of these coaches, Hall of Fame thing's a joke, you started for Kansas City. Okay, we'll make you a Hall of Famer. The guy's average. Roger Craig should not be in the Hall of Fame. Hate to break it for you. That fumble against the Giants, no, that's it. Now, I don't know if the other Giants are in the Hall of Fame. Harry Carson, Pepper Johnson, Salt Johnson. They should be in it ahead of Roger Craig, that's for sure. But anyway, so that's where we're at. Let's go 30-10 Seattle as I look at it, 27-10, somewhere around there. New England's getting 10, that's it, especially if their offensive line's injured. They're not going to do shit. Seattle, very strong defense. Like I said, they just beat the Rams twice and the Niners twice. Who's New England? New England is not in the Rams category. And I doubt they're in Frisco's when Frisco was playing, beating the Bears with an 80-point game on a Sunday night. To shut that team down, and you got Drake May, MVP candidate. Jesus Christ, you've got to be kidding me. How is he better than Josh Allen? I'm sorry. Josh Allen at least should have been the runner-up if you're going to have that, but Stafford killed it, right? He's number one. Other guys, I mean, I don't know, but it's ridiculous. Jefferson, Chase, they always should be up for MVP. Joe Burrow, anyway. So that's what we got. A lot of these coaches will be one and done, two and done. It's like Matt Patricia for the Lions. He sucked. You drafted him anyway. None of the New England coaches are any good because Bill Belichick wasn't any good. Bill Belichick never taught his coaches shit. and Tom Brady called all the plays at the line, as he said. If I see the defense there, I checked out of it. So he checked out of most of his plays. Joe Namath said he did 90% of his plays were check with me, and he called the plays from the line of scrimmage. So I don't understand these offensive coordinators. The quarterback should be the one calling the plays. And well, Stabler called all the plays. John Madden was there, but he didn't. It wasn't like his calls. It was basically Stabler go out and make the call. What do you want to call? I'm sure most of those good quarterbacks call their offense. So the overvalue of the offensive coordinator. Ben Johnson's strength is putting in a good running attack and must have a way of having the guys block that fools the other team. So it's his system. So he could go anywhere and run his system. Is he a good coach? I don't know, but he runs a good system. Caleb throwing 3 interceptions shows me he doesn't know what he's doing, because he's leaving the ball in Caleb's hands when they should have been running the ball in that weather and not throwing and getting the interceptions, except at the end they had to throw. Otherwise, they should have done a lot more running in the game, especially a cold day like that. And that's about it. So these new coaches most of them are one and dones. I don't see any that's any good. I don't buy Harbaugh as any good. I don't think the Giants will do anything with Harbaugh. They still have Jackson Dart, who's not very good. Scadaboo's very good. Malik Neighbors, we'll see how he comes back. But I love how these people, the guy gets injured and an ACL, MCL, and you think they're just going to come back the same way. Like the Lions with Hutchinson. He snaps his leg in half, and you think he's going to come back the same way. Not a problem, barely an inconvenience. It was only a broken leg that got severed. So, he'll come back the same. Are you out of your minds? These people are out of their minds. They're on drugs. No, he won't. And then so will Malik Neighbors come back? Well, we saw Hutchinson look like shit, and they rewarded him with a big contract. And he had half the sacks and no plays, and it was a totally different player. And this is the problem. So you're relying on a guy. This is an injury sport. You want quantity over quality here. You want some quality, but I'd rather not sign anybody to a $40 million contract and have a that's what New England used to do. They had a bunch of guys at medium contracts, and then they'd get hurt and they'd put another good player in. Even Brady didn't take his full amount. He probably got ownership or something. He probably got paid differently, I'm sure. Like his wife probably made a lot of money. Wink, wink. We'll sign her because we can't sign you or something like that. That way it's off the books. But that's probably what happened. But keep in mind, maybe one or two of these coaches will turn into anything good. These same teams will be firing. The Jets will be firing their coach at the end of this year as he goes 2-15, like he did this year. Miami, I don't get Miami. What was that coach? He was a tall boy for San Francisco, goes to Miami. He's terrible. And then did San Diego sign him or somebody sign him as their offensive coordinator? Like he's going to do anything? San Diego's offense won't get any better because Herbert will still look to run around. They don't have the receivers, and the running back's nothing. Mario Hampton's nothing. They got the wrong running back there. So, Harbaugh's not going to do shit at the Giants. He'll be exposed for what he really is, which is nothing. He couldn't win games. He didn't know how to win games. Terrible play calls. He's a special teams coordinator. That's all he is. He's not a head coach. So anyway, that's kind of what I see. So buy your gold and silver. All this has been paper. This has been options. This has been margin calls. This has been that. It's all paper. This is what's going to happen in the stock market. You're going to start getting margin calls. People aren't going to handle it. And it's going to crash by the margin calls and by the foreigners getting out because they want gold and silver in their money. So if I'm in England, I don't want American money. If I'm in Germany, France, Spain, Italy, I don't want American money. I don't want my money in the stock market. Problem is they don't trust their own stock market in their countries. Like Germany, France. We see these leaders are idiots. We got wars. The wars are all about trying to get oil, gold, oil, and minerals out of the ground because we don't have any. So we'll have wars to do it, following the Hitler plan. Hitler was broke and he went to Czechoslovakia, Poland, Brussels, wherever, to steal their gold. That was the war. I'm going to go, I need to steal the gold and hide it out. That was the war, basically. And that's what the U.S. is doing. All this war bullshit is the same thing. So I don't know. Anyway, well, have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow. Sunday I'll be on normal 11 o'clock, and the game's at 6:30. So good luck, enjoy it. I don't, the interest. You're losing with all the commercials and all the instant replays and was he in or not? It's really making the game unwatchable. The Super Bowl, I mean, all the commercials, just like I say, have a movie on Netflix and keep switching back and forth during the 5 minutes of commercials. It's really ridiculous. Anyway, so that's what's going on. So you're safe with your gold and silver. Hold it in physical. I'm going to go to the store after lunch and I'm going to look and see what he's doing. And I think it'll be the same comex. Comex at 76 for silver. He'll be selling it for 76. If he has any gold, I doubt. But we see what's happening. And Mark McGwire said $8,000 gold, $150 silver. Nothing's changed. As I've been saying, nothing has changed. High demand for gold and silver. Very limited supply for both. It has nothing to do with this paper market crap that we've been seeing. And that's why I say there's two markets here converging. There's the paper and the physical, and all we care about is this one. And in the paper, they're doing margins and they're trying to hedge and they're trying to do all this shit because they're losing money because it's all margins and options. And you control the option with $10,000 controls $100,000. What is that crap? Stay away from ETFs. They're bullshit also. So that's lesson learned. So anyway, have a good day. www.teaserking.com. All right. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the game. Free pick is Seattle under 46 and a teaser to 52. And my teaser is $50. You can Venmo me. You can PayPal me. Just email me or just anything like that. All right. Have a great day, everybody. www.teaserking.com. All right. Take care.